Hello friends, nice to see you all. So today we will talk about how to create a large, live and strong community for a Web3 project. And we will talk about it based on our case, a fresh one, about how we created a community of 70,000 members for a gaming project in 4 months. These mechanics can be adapted and used for any project because this is, in general, what is currently working on the Web3 market. So you can pick some tools I will talk about today according to your needs, or take this whole plan for your project to grow quickly and qualitatively in its live audience. My name is Ales. I am a managing partner at BDC Consulting with more than 15 years of experience in business and marketing. We've been working in crypto industry since 2017, helping startups to attract investments in various forms, starting with ICOs, IDOs, and various other activities. In general, we have worked with all verticals. We have more than 80 projects under our belt. Among our top clients are blockchain.com, OKEx, CoinsPaid, TradingView, and CardiaChain. We have worked with many, if not all, possible directions in crypto. We have a wide network with a lot of investors and marketers in our community, and so on. So, what's our case study about? We started from scratch. We just had an idea. Our client is a large gaming studio, which nevertheless is just starting its journey in the Web3 industry, and they had no Web3 projects before, so we started from scratch. Within 4 months, we had over 70,000 members in the community and held a free mint on the Magic Eden platform that ended with a sold out in 2 minutes. On the first day after the free mint, we got more than 2,500 sales on OpenSea, which is a pretty good indicator for a free mint. We sold out more than 10,000 free NFTs, more specifically gave them away. And at the same time, we got 68% uniqueness, which is also important in the current market, where there is a huge number of bot farms and bots. And later, I will tell you how we fought them. What allowed us to achieve this result is a detailed strategy, scheduled literally day by day for each team member. Obviously, we will never get away from this old thesis that the team makes all the difference, and certainly the importance of the team will always be in the first place. So, with the help of various KPIs and effective management, it is important to properly align the activity of each team member with common goals and specific figures. Speaking of our plan and strategy, we started with the market research. We looked at all the successful projects for the last 6 months that had been launched before us and determined the size of their community, the value of their NFTs, the number of whitelists and conversions. In general, we have identified all the benchmarks that could be useful to us. We found out how it works and then determined the structure of the team, which was to accomplish the tasks and objectives set for us. What is also important is that we found experts and various specialists from those projects that have already achieved the results we were aiming for. We consulted with them, learned some valuable insights, learned what mistakes to pay attention to, and that helped us to simply reduce the number of our own mistakes made, but to increase the number of successful decisions from the very beginning, simply by consulting with these people. We found them mainly on LinkedIn, Twitter, and among our network. It is indeed quite a simple but very, very useful strategy I recommend you to try. As for market benchmarks, we found out that on average, collections come out with a size of 2 to 10,000 NFTs, and the median is about 4 to 5,000. Our collection was on Polygon, and the average price per NFT on Polygon is $30 to $40. Therefore, on the paid mint, on the sale, projects can count on the amount of 100 to 500,000, which turns out to be 175,000 median. We took these numbers for us as a goal, as the minimum target of 175,000 in revenue, ideally to reach 300,000. These are the amounts that would allow us to recoup the costs of developing the game, plus all the marketing, which I am now talking about. In general, we were not aiming to earn anything, but at least to recoup the costs in order to prepare the game for a great market entry with the ready community. The game itself is planned, and the release of the game is planned for the first quarter of 2024. So basically, we have determined the size of our collection and the approximate price, which we later naturally plan to adjust based on the realities of the market. Anyway, for other benchmarks, we realized that we need to take into account about 30% conversion from the whitelist to purchase. That is, in order to get 10,000 users who will mint our NFT later, we need to get 30,000 on the whitelists. And to get those, according to average conversion, we will need 100,000 live community, naturally including only live members with no bots, no baiting, only real people, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense for our project. Our implementation plan included working with influencers. Mostly it was on X, I mean, good old Twitter, and a little bit, about 10% of activity, was in Telegram. Of course, we were using quests and various giveaways. We were also holding AMA sessions and Twitter spaces. We were choosing projects for collaboration, as this is one of the most effective and cheapest methods of attracting the community. We wrote a lot of content. We were placed in the media. I will tell you a little bit more about it. So months 1 and 2, what we did. And I remind you that we started from scratch and there was absolutely nothing at all. Therefore, we started with the registration of a page on X and setting up the configuration of the Discord server. We also hired the first 2 community managers, a social media manager and a collaboration manager. The next task was to increase our Twitter score to the minimum trust mark of 100 plus. Obviously, in the beginning, we had a complete 0. So in order to get 100 plus points in the Twitter score, we analyzed this indicator on the tweetscout.io service. We had to actually text everyone with whom we communicated directly, whether it was a blogger, whether it was a partner, a friend, or an employee, literally anyone who was connected to our project in any way. So we asked everyone to subscribe to our Twitter profile on a mandatory basis. And thus, in about a month and a half or 2 months, we scored more than 100 points. I'll talk about it a little bit more on the next slide. Then we conducted a small campaign among influencers on Twitter. And yeah, it is important to understand that influencers do not show such high quality performance these days, or at least those users who come from influencers are expensive, and therefore this activity is more likely to increase trust, to increase the awareness of the project, rather than to direct performance and attracting direct leads, well, simply because they are expensive. Then we launched a quest on one of the platforms where we got to the top rather quickly. We additionally negotiated with the Questin platform so that they would place us in their top lists and feature us, in exchange for the fact that we launch our quest on their platform. In general, we received a fairly serious inflow. About 10 to 15,000 users came to us from this platform. The only nuance worth mentioning is that there were bots among them, and at some point we missed about 5,000 bots, which our community managers regretted a lot because they had to clean our community from these bots later. This is an important point to pay attention to, simply because the top projects, when you try to collaborate with them, they look at who your community consists of, and if there are obviously a lot of bots in it, it immediately kills the trust and does not allow you to agree on any collaboration with them. Then we published our white paper and prepared various options for the game. We announced the whitelist and the free mint without mentioning what size the collection would be and without specific dates and prices. Basically, it was just an announcement that this whole event is worth waiting for. We also added another community manager to the team and cleaned up our Discord of those bots that we've missed during our first quest. It's probably important to remind everyone that additional protection at the entrance and various filters that can be set up on Discord will certainly help you in order not to do this bad work later. And again, it's very important to keep your community as clean as possible. After that, we launched an ambassador program aimed at expanding the community into local ones, including various geography, including, for example, one of the most active local geos in Vietnam, simply because we had the most active local ambassadors in this region. These people came to us themselves from our community. They showed their wish to work with the project. Apparently, they are the most loyal people who, in general, pretty often work without any monetary remuneration, but for roles in Discord or maybe with some very minimal remuneration. And the last thing we did in the first 2 months is we started to negotiate with the Magic Eden platform to hold the sale. Everything did not go smoothly with them, and I will touch a little bit on this topic later. Twitter score, for those who are not yet familiar with this metric, is the most important metric for those who more or less professionally invest in NFTs or NFT collections and Web3 projects in general. This metric shows how many trusted accounts are subscribed to your Twitter profile and thus allows you to determine how trustworthy your project is. This metric, as you understand, is quite difficult to scalp, simply because, let's say, Vitalik Buterin will not subscribe to the Twitter of some other scam or obscure project, right? And his subscription will add you a lot of points within the framework of this metric. Thus, it is very important to ask any partners, investors, bloggers, and all those with whom you interact to subscribe and thereby accumulate this metric. Because, again, professional investors or semi-professional investors, all of them, they pay attention to it. And if it is low, then no one will simply consider the project further, as it often happens in crypto. We usually start studying a project from its Twitter, and if we don't see some appropriate numbers there, if we don't see that our authoritative friends or those who we follow are subscribed to this Twitter, then no one goes further this stage, so the conversion rate is cut down very much. We managed in 2 months, or a little bit more, in 3 months, to get the Twitter score rate close to 200. As we were growing fast enough, we were getting into the trends of Twitter, and by doing so, we were additionally boosting ourselves and attracting an additional audience. In general, getting to the top of all these services is definitely an important thing to keep an eye on. And the last thing that should be said here is that we were constantly in touch with the developers of the service in order to push them, in order for them to update our statistics. Not everything there works smoothly 100% for sure. And sometimes the developers can tell you what you need to do, how you need to do it more correctly. And as in the case of Questin, you need to be in touch with the platform in order to conduct your activities there more effectively. Well, just because of the fact that people can prompt you or give you some valuable advice on your work. How to recruit the first 10,000 Discord members? Let's talk about it separately, where we start. Because as a rule, when you start from scratch, the first steps are the most difficult, the most incomprehensible, right? In our case, we recruited the first 50 participants through shilling, which many people dislike, and through various alpha groups. I mean, those groups where there are people who are initially interested in projects at the very early stages. So this is a relevant audience which can be reached by simply posting some materials about ourselves in these groups, talking about our idea and what we are going for. This is how some of the first participants can already be collected. After we gathered the first participants, we started the invite campaign to distribute roles within Discord, OG roles, and accordingly assigned rewards for what you need to do to get these roles. Of course, it's about inviting your friends and subscribing to social networks, basically doing all these standard things as actively as possible. After we gathered the first 1,000 followers on Discord, we launched a quest specifically on Questin. Basically, it doesn't matter what platform you use, it can be absolutely any of them. First of all, 1,000 live subscribers is already enough to keep launching quests, so that people get into a certain live community and see that things are happening there. After that, we have launched collaborations, which is one of the most effective methods of attraction and one of the cheapest at the same time. In collaboration activity, the cost per subscriber is often less than $1, but you should definitely start collaborating with projects that are comparable in size to yours. So in the beginning, we were collaborating with tier 3 projects, and then when we grew bigger, we moved to tier 2 projects and then to tier 1. So you certainly don't want to stick your nose right into the tier 1 projects. They would not get, realizing that your sizes are not comparable, of course, they're not going to consider you. That is why it is important to move step by step as the ladder. During the 3rd and the 4th months, we prepared a day-by-day roadmap for NFT Mint, coordinated all the activities that should take place in the community within the local ambassadors, and quests, launched influencers, and additional collabs started to hold AMAs on Twitter and Space. We have announced the free mint and launched the verification of the whitelist. We collected the conditions to get a whitelist for our users. There were certain tasks that had to be done to gain some points to get a role, and accordingly, this is how we increased the activity. At the peak of activity, the ER rate within our community was more than 10%. That's the rate that we should probably strive for. In general, according to our estimates and to our measurements, it's very difficult to do more, but 10% would be very, very good. We launched the public collab forums, which we placed on Twitter and Discord. Through these collab forums, we had projects coming to us that wanted to collab. We had influencers who wanted to post, for example, about us, or wanted to place, for example, advertisements about us. Someone actually placed ads in exchange for a role, in exchange for a whitelist. There were such offers too. And I want to say that, of course, in these forums, 80 to 90% of the proposals do not deserve special attention. It's garbage. But among the 10 to 20 of the remaining sometimes come very valuable emeralds. That is why it is important to be attentive to all the applications that come in. Some of them may be really valuable and interesting. We also launched an additional referral program. In this, we were helped by a contractor who set everything up for the server. And again, we made another mistake here, which was related to the incorrect calculation of rewards for users who invite others. We planned to allocate our budget of $1,000 for rewards, but because the math was calculated incorrectly, we ended up with a check for $8,000. Simply due to the fact that in 24 hours, the referral program helped to attract more than 15,000 people. Among them was probably a part of bots, but there were a lot of live quality subscribers. So our mistake with the math has cost us a lot of money, more than we had planned. Thus, we had to cut a little bit somewhere. It even added some negativity to the community. That is, in the end, we paid out 5,000 instead of 8. But nevertheless, some negativity remained. That's why it is important, of course, to count the math very correctly, recalculate, do tests, and do some emulations for complex mechanics, because mistakes in math often lead to deplorable results in projects. In the end, according to the results of the third and fourth months, we got 50,000 members count on Discord. In parallel with that, we were listing the project in all the directories that are on the topic of NFT, on calendars, rarity tools, hyperspace, and so on. A few days before the free mint, we increased activity among bloggers. That is the prepared company launched a few days in advance before the mint. We also held the first meeting with C-level for the community. By the way, as we can see, the presence of C-level is not always necessary even for the community. I mean, that is very often the product itself, the idea itself is much more important. And C-level people are often busy, so, well, in general, as you can see, they are not always even necessary for a good result. In all the spaces and all the AMS sessions that we held, we had our community managers who were well immersed in the product, could answer questions, well, and just had time to hold these sessions quite actively. We've done over 30 AMA sessions over the course of time, so that's several a week. On the free mint, 9,500 NFTs we identified for the community, and 500 we kept in reserve for future giveaways, partnerships, and so on. We ensured and increased some effect on the secondary market for NFT sales thanks to a special activity. I mean, people started to collect NFTs that were similar to each other in some way, and thus they increased the turnover of the volume of purchases on the secondary market. Moreover, we announced new activations and kept a high enough level of involvement after the mint itself, added new roles for Discord, and thus completed the fourth month. The fifth month, which is going on right now, what are we doing within it? We are preparing for the paid mint, which will be held in December. The date has not been announced yet, but it will be in December. Accordingly, we have restarted our collab form, as we currently have 2 collab managers working for us who have made over 1,000 collabs. That is, you can count, that is about 20 to 30 collaborations per week. And what is important to note is that collab managers can be so different in terms of efficiency. Different people in this position can give multiple different results, and in our case, one collab manager who we attracted gave out 10 times more efficiency than the one we started with. Basically, we changed 4 or 5 collab managers during the whole period and left 2 main ones at the end. So we have planned further activity, further increase of activity amongst bloggers a few days before the paid mint. We're announcing a new whitelist and a public round along with the date. The timing of all of that will happen in the next few days, so that's what we're busy with right now. And our next big step will be to add a Web2 audience to the game, as we originally conceptualized the game so that it would be available for both the Web3 audience and the Web2 audience. You don't need to have any tokens or any idea about blockchains to play. So we want to bring these 2 audiences together. Now, a few hacks or insights on the topic of working on certain tools, particularly bloggers and collaborations. On this slide on the right, you can see, for example, a report from our collab manager, how much and what he did and had to do within 1 week of work. By the way, the cost of collab managers and community managers is also not a secret. The salary of community managers was up to $1,000, and for collab managers up to $1,500, an average of $1,300 per month. That's what the market rates are now. Speaking of collaborations with influencers, it should definitely be started as early as possible. But as I said, it's primarily a tool to increase trust, not a performance. Open collab forms on Twitter and Discord, as I said, should be practiced very carefully. Good and really cool offers may come very often with bloggers and the possibility of partnerships. And what I've already mentioned, you should definitely start with projects that are comparable to yourself and gradually move towards tier 1 collaborations. Now, working with the community. First of all, of course, working with the community is about management. So we all start with the definition of KPIs, which are not fixed, which are dynamic and can change almost every week, depending on what activity is going on or what intensity is now on the project. For that, we have a special person in our team, the lead community manager, who oversees everything, sets the schedule, and sets the KPIs that are mandatory. If people don't fulfill KPIs several times in a row, we fire them. We do not teach anyone, we don't try to teach anyone how to work. We only bring in people who already know how to do their job, who already know better than us, and bring their new level of competence to the team. So it's very important, and again, very important to track your KPIs in numbers and to make quick decisions about people, because that's what ensures the speed of work. So for reasons to log into Discord every day, you should have mechanics that are geared towards making it interesting or important for users to come back to Discord. For example, they need to check in to see when there will be a role giveaway. They need to log in every day so that they don't accidentally miss out, or they need to check when the whitelist is announced, or they need to check when something is going to be published. I mean, they need to be interested and motivated to come to the community all the time, check the news, read it, don't mute, and so on. Various activities related to likes, retweets, and all that other stuff are definitely a must-have. Standard activities related to holding contests for the best memes for some kind of team competitions. In our case, for example, we have the theme of fighting in the game, which is a fertile ground for division into teams. In our case, we divided the teams into blue and red, and they had to perform various tasks, whether it was sharing something on Twitter, on liking, and so on. And it was a real team battle. That is, people were discussing how they would act within the framework of this or that task in order to defeat the other team and eventually get some number of whitelists. That is, it was a really serious heat, serious involvement of the team. You can see in the screenshot, for example, how many reactions some of our posts collected to our announcement. The referral program, as I said, brought us 15,000 users in one day, in just one day. There was a math problem that I already talked about, but overall these were quality users. You can see on the slide that 66% of the wallets were non-zero balance and about 17% of those were with some sort of NFT. What could possibly go wrong? The short answer is, of course, anything. Within our referral program, I've told you before that it was a mistake with the math. When we negotiated with Magic Eden, we got a rejection. After that, projects usually give up and go to others, but we tried to still push through, and we succeeded. The reason for the rejection was that our collection size was too big for the current market, but we managed to convince them that we were confident that everything would go perfectly and well, and that's how it turned out in the end. You can see on the screenshot how we convinced them, and they accepted these arguments. And in the end, we still agreed to work with them. Magic Eden, for those who don't know, is a top launch pad for gaming projects. Well, bots. That's the last problem on this slide, but not the last at all. OTS are just everywhere, with a huge number of farms and a huge number of bots, so it is necessary and important to install filters. It is important to keep your community clean. Any activity, be it quests, referral programs, or anything that is aimed at attracting the mass attraction of new users, will contain bots, and it is very important to protect yourself from them, immediately providing for various filters. In our case, while we were cleaning manually, we had to look for users who contained some suspicious numbers in their login or who did not appear on the server for a long time and so on. Of course, we could not always accurately determine whether it was a bot or a real person, but we had to still clean all those who seemed to us at least a little bit suspicious. For sure, it was not the best way. At least we have not found any automated methods to clean bots on the market yet. And that's all, dear friends. If you still have or will have any questions on the topic of community building or project launch, go-to-market topics or strategy, under this video there will be contacts, there will be links that you can always use. We will be happy to answer your questions. And yes, that's all for now. I wish you fast growth, fast and quality growth. Bye-bye.